Okay, this is from videogameschronicle.com, and it says here why Remedy is glad it took 13 years to make Alan Wake 2. After more than a decade struggling to get its sequel off the ground, the final result is a bold and ambitious horror game. So, Remedy's creative director Sam Lake took to the stage in Los Angeles earlier this month to present the new final version of Alan Wake to press. The struggle, he said, had all been worth it. It feels fantastic. It's been such a long journey, he told members of the press, all visibly holding back emotion. Looking back, all that pain and suffering along the way was fine. And I guess there are some learnings from a philosophical level of life here. Actress Janina Javalka speaks up. That's the quote. All the suffering was fine. Given how admirably Remedy has stuck to its roots, creating strong narrative-driven action games, perhaps even more surprising than the 13 years it's taken for Alan Wake 2 is the fact that the developer hasn't made a sequel at all for almost exactly 20 years. Max Payne 2 is released for PC on October 14, 2003. And here's the cast. It's Leica Vitti, Alan Wake actor, Matthew Peretta, Alan Wake voice, Melanie Liebert Saga, Sam Lake creative director, Son Ashmore, Team Breaker, and Janina Gavanka, Agent Estevez. This is the cast here, right? That's certainly not been due to a lack of trying, since it put its mark on the games industry with stylish cinematic shooter Max Payne in 2001, and then narrative thriller Alan Wake 9 years later. The independent Finnish studio spent a decade trying to get Alan Wake 2 greenlit. With the rise of live service games during the 2010s, original publisher Microsoft wasn't interested in Remedy's pitch for an Alan Wake sequel, so the developer tweaked its ideas and came up with Xbox One exclusive Quantum Break, though it managed to sprinkle more than a few Alan Wake Easter eggs throughout that title, including a live-action mock trailer. A second Alan Wake 2 pitch involving FBI agents searching for the titular writer evolved into 2018's critically acclaimed action game Control, after Remedy received feedback that it didn't feel like an Alan Wake title. That game also had strong links to Alan Wake, minting the Remedy-connected universe with solid narrative ties between the two, including Alan Wake-themed DLC. With years of practice and multiple drafts under his belt, it's unsurprising that Alan Wake 2, which is the result of part funding from Epic Games, feels like the combination of Remedy's last decade of game development and ambitious sequel that feels like it could be the boldest interpretation yet of the Remedy-style cinematic action game. The saga continues. The original Alan Wake reportedly sold 3.1 million copies, a modest amount for a AAA action game published by a platform holder. Two console generations later, one of the priorities for the sequel is understandably to cater for those who either didn't play it or whose memories have long since faded into the shadows. That means the introduction of a second character with players able to hop between the two with relative freedom. When we start our hands-on session, which begins on the game's third chapter, we're in the shoes of FBI agent Saga Anderson, who's traveled to Bright Falls to investigate a mysterious murder, and eventually the disappearance of Wake from the original game. Introducing a character that offers a point of view to newcomers feels smart, not just from an accessibility standpoint, but tonally it feels fresh. So this is actually a site article saying how is Remedy stuck to its single player roots for so long. To be fair, we have multiple projects in the making, including some multiplayer. So from a business perspective, there's definitely a desire to find our own way of doing these kinds of games as well. But so far we've been lucky and blessed to be allowed to create something like this. A big thank you for Alan Wake being able to be so bold in pushing our ideas further than ever before us go to Epic Games Publishing and publishing boss Hector Sanchez in particular when we were pitching this game for funding, because they have been a big part of funding even though Remedy has funded part of it. What makes it possible to do something like that this is that Hector from the get-go understood what we wanted to make and was excited about it. So I'm happy. Hopefully Alan Wake finds its audience and is big enough to make this venture profitable for all parties involved. Okay, the original Alan Wake was inspired by Twin Peaks, then Alan Wake 2's version of the Pacific Northwest never leads towards True Detective. Wearing her FBI issued windbreaker, Saga nervously creeps through twisted swampland and abandoned woodland settlements, hoping not to bump into the insane cultists who almost certainly responsible for all the murdering in the area. Powered by Remedy's Snowflight engine, Alan Wake 2 is a seriously stunning game with scenes that often overshadow even Capcom's equally gorgeous Alpine cultist from Resident Evil 4 remake. In this particular mission, Saga is exploring Waterway, a quaint town near the game's original location of Bright Falls, as she investigates the mysterious cult of the tree. The map is like a small hub with players able to wander freely to nearby points of interest, allowing for Metroidvania-style puzzles as you gain new items and clues. Saga's gameplay is much slower paced than expected. The first 15 minutes of the mission are spent exploring Waterway, encountering its typically real characters, including the janitor from Control enjoying a spot of karaoke. Unsettlingly, some characters Saga speaks to imply that she previously lived in the town, despite her having no knowledge of this. Two characters then tell her about her residence in a nearby trailer park. Eventually, Saga pulls out a gun and flashlight wanders into the forest in search of spare keys for the trailer park, which shock horror are locked away in a spooky, abandoned theme park called Coffee Row. It's not long before shadowy taken enemies emerge from the trees and were engaged in combat that feels pleasingly familiar to the first game. As noted in my own 13-year-old review of the original Alan Wake, the game's combat felt great, with players combining a flashlight to stun foes before finishing off with a traditional weapon, and the sequel's combat feels faithful to that, a bit in the title Resident Evil style over-the-shoulder camera. However, it did become repetitive in the original, and Remedy hopes to shift further towards survival horror mechanics to benefit the overall experience. In the Saga mission we played, enemies were infrequent but tough, allowing tension to build with each encounter, while ammunition was always short in supply. This makes for particularly stressful boss encounters as Saga scrambles to duck out their path as they manipulate the environment around them with taken energy. I would say the first game was more of an action-oriented game, and I think that is because of the tools we had available to us at the time and the story that we were looking to make. Principal narrative designer Molly Baloney tells VGC, "It's been 30 years and not only Remedy has evolved and changed, but the industry has evolved and changed as well. We have a lot more technical capability than we had at the time." To Maloney's point, the original Alan Wake was very much a game of its era, adding up story sequences with seemingly endless shooting galleries in order to give the player something to do. This time around, Remedy didn't want to do that. In previous Remedy games, we've always had a strong story component, but it's not usually been related to gameplay. Lake tells VGC, "The gameplay has been about action and the story sort of takes you through that, but there's not a tone of gameplay that's about the story." I would say the first game was more of an action-oriented game. I think that was because of the tools we had available to us at the time in the story that we were looking to make. This time around, that was our mission. Firstly, with the duality of choosing which character you play as, but also how we bring storytelling closer to actual gameplay. That led to, on Saga's side, she's an investigator and a profiler. So what does that mean as a gameplay element? The solution is a suite of promising core mechanics that attempt to fuse storytelling and gameplay in a way that, should a good full game pull it off, to differentiate Alan Wake 2 from other survival horror games and offer something meaningful to players seeking a more engaging narrative experience. From the off, Saga's story feels very much like a detective game. Coffee Row is littered with clues and puzzles that the game hardly signposts at all. It's clear the final game is going to be relaxed because of hand-holding the player, which should again please those looking for more challenge than many modern blockbusters. With their convenience blurting out the solution left alone for 60 seconds after follow. Key to this is arguably Alan Wake 2's most important mechanic, the mind place, a sort of interactive pause menu. Though Remedy stresses it doesn't actually pause the game home to features that allow players to progress Saga's investigation. As players collect clues in the game mode, then they must then piece them together in the imaginary FBI office inside. So this is the mind place that's down here. Okay, so you can profile key characters if you interacted to learn more about the past. More importantly, place key clues on the caseboard and identify connections between them. This can help you solve otherwise tricky puzzles, such as by noting that a message docked on the lock safe in the gift shop could be referencing a code hidden on the nearby staff looked up, or even spawn new objective once Saga's identified connections. In addition to getting Saga's perspective, the player is the one actively doing it. Explains co-director Kyle Rowley. They're pressing buttons saying things that was our approach for the conversations, that the player has some agency over how they consume their content, the order in which they do it, so you're more focused on what you consume. And I think we really wanted to find gameplay driven ways to tell the story in addition to the more traditional linear formats we get like cinematics. In a time limited preview setting where we will drop partway into the full game without no tutorials whatsoever. The caseboard gameplay was a little bit tricky to figure out the beyond trial and error, throwing those on the wall until they stuck. But with some onboarding, it's easy to see how it will power a very compelling true detective style horror story. The challenge of this preview event is it's not the beginning of the game, but we are beyond all the tutorials and the simple story it tells us. The caseboard and investigative gameplay in Saga's Mind Place and using the caseboard has been a really interesting process finding the balance. We had versions of the caseboard where it was crazily complex with the whole board free to put any clues in there but still horror game. So we needed to find a balance where it was streamlined enough for players to be engaged in the story and internalizing it by placing the clues, and yet still guarding enough that you can't really mess it up. So Remedy has acknowledged the existence of two separate campaigns since it first unveiled Alan Wake 2 earlier this year, but our hands-on was the first time anyone has got to try out the titular writer spookler and more combat-oriented story and experience some idea of how the dual character setup is going to work. Okay, this is how will Remedy balance sequels and original IP in future. So going back far enough in our history, we did get to make Max Payne 2. I still look back from a writer's perspective at that being a wonderful project, having the world and many of the characters established, but coming back and expanding on that. The whole concept of the Remedy connected universe is that while they're standalone experiences and need to be approachable without knowing what came before, it's still a foundation for exciting and interesting tracks to go from. So from one's perspective, you could imagine all of our Remedy connected games, and even if it's an original IP or sequel, they're all kinds of sequels that references to something. We are making Vanguard, which is a new IP, so I don't feel like we'll be slowing down necessarily. But I think there are exciting creative things to be had from sequels. I don't think sequel necessarily means less ambition. In this case, with the 13-year gap, Alan Wake 2 is a completely new experience, even if it is in the same role with some of the same characters. So, Alan Wake 2 allows players to play through the story either as Saga or Alan, with the ability to switch between the two at multiple points during the campaign. Think Resident Evil Sequels. The two offer contrasting styles of gameplay and their own points of what was going on in the streets and surreal world. According to Remedy, there will be key points where the two communicate and unify their stories. A core theme of the game is duality, two worlds, two characters, fact and fiction, Baloney explains. So Saga and Alan have very, very unique perspective on the situation, and I actually think agnostic to her being an excellent entry point. She also provides valuable context as to what's going on, whereas Alan is very much immersed in what's going on. Most stories in multiple perspectives typically switch between characters at pivotal moments in order to tell the overall story, but Lake says he pushed to avoid this and give autonomy to the player or his perspective they experience. That means the ability to tackle missions with whatever character you choose and leaving the writers to worry about ensuring it makes sense. think that fundamentally from a storytelling perspective, the very early realization was that if it was a linear story between Saga and Nick, what you will do for sure is take one character to a surprising twist and scary situation, and then cut to another one, your cliffhanger, which is the basic way of telling a story with multiple points of unique scenes. That was out of the shadow. We decided we couldn't do that because we wanted to encourage the players to find their own pacing. So if they want to continue playing in Saga, they can. If they want to switch to it, they can. It meant that cliffhangers on the level of course, these two narratives, the rule was none of that. For sure there are twists, turns, curves, and cliffhanger moments inside each of these narratives, but suddenly Alan Wake discovers something he didn't previously understand, and it leads to an exciting situation. But all the cross-reversing in this experience are where there are visions and dreamlike moments, and you start to understand how the characters are seeing the other side. Some moving shots of the gameplay. So it really is intentionally created so that there is no wrong pacing or wrong way to play through it. That was a big thing to adjust to and then find solutions within that. The development team hopes the switching mechanic will allow players to balance their own experience, jumping to Alan's story when they're ready for more action-packed gameplay, and switching back to Saga for a breather. And from what we played of Alan's 5th mission, his side of the story is clearly more intense than that of the investigator. Alan is trapped in the dark place, a nightmarish reality that reacts to his subconscious mind. In this mission, the dark place is represented by a North-style New York with neon signs and scroll graffiti decorating the damn dirty streets. Alan wrote crime fiction set here, and the dark place is a reflection of this, a twisted version of the city where it's always moody, nighttime, and rainy. Usually, it's another stunning showcase for a Northlight engine and a refreshing deviation from pine trees and rock canyons or platforms. Alan's story is also where players experience against 1 hour of live-action cutscenes, reaching the real-life cast behind its characters and adds to the surreal appearance of the story. Enemies are far more common here, but the experience of fighting them is also more tense, as the vast majority of the shadowy figures stumbling through the dimly lit alleyways don't want to attack you, and you don't have enough ammo to fight anymore, so Alan's instead forced to tiptoe around them, anticipating the inevitable axe swing one of them will launch. It's pleasing how much Alan's experience contrasts his sagas. As Maloney explained, if Anderson's story is about fact, and Wake's is about fiction. Saga's Mind Palace is replaced with the writer's room and the caseboard with the plot board. The latter functions in much the same way from what we can figure out, at least, except Wake's version rewrites reality as it adds story beats to it. And how significant are the upcoming Max Payne 1 and 2 remakes? Okay, it is a significant undertaking in the sense that even if they are old games, just thinking about bringing them up to modern standards and combining them into one, you can see that it's a big project. Will you be reprising your role? No comment that's going too far. Right. Much of the gameplay and the mission we played required manipulating the environment inside of a abandoned hotel as Alan continues to search for a way out of the dark place. A key item in Alan's arsenal is his Angel Lamp, which players can use to store light from specific areas and transfer it to others, causing the environment to instantly change, revealing the way forward. Wake is also able to rewrite reality in the writer's room, instantly transforming specific areas of the hotel. For example, switching to the haunted reality in a ballroom can instantly fill the scene with a pervasive fog and screeching monstrosities, with new tools to be found to progress the narrative. The near instant scene transitions are impressive and offer a useful demonstration of what can be done with modern SSD storage. Remedy's intention is that the two can experience each other, with one side predicting the events of the other or adding valuable context for moments past. It's most definitely an ambitious concept, and you can see why the developer is glad he was able to make they state a whole concept rather than a comparatively safe follow-up that we have ended up with had it been really earlier. I'm so happy that we didn't get to do it back then, Nick says, because I think that we have grown, we have learned, and there's plenty of more experience to tap into. The very fact that Alan Wake ended up being trapped in the dark place, that's suffering, and it's all for the benefit of the story. We couldn't have done this before now.